Hey folks, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today we're going to talk about what plugins should you buy for mixing. We're going to discuss 3 plugins. I'm going to go over my top 3 plugins you should buy for mixing after you get past your stock plugins. So that's the little caveat we're going to talk about here. But before we dive in, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and really start to hone your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the thing for you. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the hassle and without any more of the guesswork. Completely free guide, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now, plugins, stock plugins, third-party plugins. I am always a proponent of using what you have. So that means starting with stock plugins. The little caveat here is if you don't have a good stock EQ or a good stock compressor to begin with. So I'm going to scroll over here to our drums. The stock EQ inside of Studio One is fabulous, and the same with the stock compressor. You can see on our stock EQ we have 5 bands to work with. 2 of them we can select shelf or peak, and then in addition to that we have 2 filters on the side. So we have a high pass filter and a low pass filter, as well as an output gain and an auto gain function. And they just added this LLC thing, so a lower cut active, a linear low cut, which is pretty cool, and we can select from a couple different things there. And I think in the newer versions of Studio One, it's also a multi-band. It has some compression functions to it as well. So it's a really strong stock EQ. If you don't have a stock EQ, kind of honorary mentions here is you want to get a good stock EQ. Same thing goes for a stock compressor. The stock compressor inside of Studio One is amazing. You can see we have attack, release, we have auto attack and release functions, threshold, ratio, we have a knee function, there's look ahead, it has side chain filter function, input and makeup gain, as well as a mix knob for the compressor. And we can sidechain into it as well, which is very, very cool. If you don't have a good stock EQ and you don't have a good stock compressor, that is what you want to get first. And you want something, I would say something digital like this. Don't go for something analog, go for something that's functional and has a lot of capability with it. And maybe, side note, if your DAW doesn't have a good stock compressor and a stock EQ, maybe you should look at getting another DAW with some great stock capabilities to it. A stock EQ and a stock compressor is going to take you farther than vintage analog plugins ever will. That's the starting point here. Now, once you get very, very comfortable with your stock plugins and you're starting to crank out good mixes and you know what you're doing with your stock EQ and your stock compressor, that's the starting point. Then starting to add some analog style plugins into your mix for color and for vibe and to expand depth and give some analog flavor. This is where we're looking at today. So what are the top 3 plugins that you should look at buying when you're starting to mix in analog flavor? For me, number 1 is getting a good mix bus compressor. Something that went a long way with my mixes was switching out the digital compressor on my mix bus for a more analog style compressor. And it'd probably go even further running into an outboard compressor, but for the moment, still sitting in here with just an analog style plugin. So the first compressor I recommend, the first plugin I recommend you look at buying or look at adding, you don't even have to buy one, even if it's a free third-party plugin that you should look at adding into your inventory or adding into your mixes, is a good mix bus compressor. Now that could be the Focusrite Red compressor. I know they make a great plugin version of that, or it can be any of the SSL emulations. It could be a Fairchild. There's a couple other ones you can look at getting. There's a few good ones here inside of Studio One as well. But we're looking at the Britcomp here, which is an SSL style bus compressor emulation. Now there's a lot of these out here, and there's some good affordable ones from like Waves to start with. I know there's the Glue one that came out This one here inside of Studio One is very, very nice. So if you have Studio One Professional, a lot of times you get access to this guy right from the get-go with the Fat Channel expansion. So let me play you what this does for the mix. So I'm going to hit play here on this mix, and then I'm going to bypass the mix bus compressor. I want you to listen to how the integrity of our mix changes here.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a memory. Yeah, yeah. Running and running, I've been chasing her around.
Okay, one more time here. I'm going to A-B it. I want you to listen to a couple things. I want you to listen to how everything kind of falls its separate ways when I take the compressor out. And then I want you to listen to the bottom end. So listen to the frequencies on the bottom end and listen to our balances between our instruments.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a memory. Yeah, yeah. Running and
So we're only doing about a dB reduction here with this mix bus compressor, but it's gluing all of our instruments together. It's taking it from feeling like a bunch of instruments playing the song to one cohesive song, right? It takes it from separate instruments to feeling like a band, feeling like one track rather than a bunch of tracks mixed together. And then the frequency element, which is something that you'll get from an analog style compressor like this, is it's helping the bottom end bloom. Sometimes with mix bus compression, it can ruin some of your bottom end, but an analog style compressor like this, the SSL style bus compressor, gives you richness in your bottom end. Let's go over the settings. You can use this on a stock compressor as well. So we're 30 millisecond attack, 100 millisecond release. So slowest attack, fastest release here. That's make sure we're not squashing anything that's transient driven, and we're making sure we let go fast enough that we're not holding down the track overall. 2-to-1 ratio, we're being as gentle as possible because again, we're affecting the entire track, not just an individual track. Now the threshold, I never touch on this. It's set at negative 1.6, and I mix into this so it gives me that dB reduction. And then on the output, I have a dB of makeup gain. So we do a dB reduction, and then we boost back a dB to make sure we're the same in and out here. So you could get this with stock plugins. It would just be more than one plugin, right? You'd have to do your compression to glue your track together and then use an EQ to get some richness in the bottom end. But it probably still wouldn't give you the same depth that you're getting from just this one plugin here. Now, the second plugin that I recommend you look at getting is an 1176 emulation. This compressor for me is probably the most versatile compressor that I use throughout my mix. In addition to probably the stock compressor, right? Stock compressor I could use anywhere inside the mix. It just wouldn't give me the same kind of vibe that this compressor is. And it's a very easy compressor to use. It's very fast. I mean, realistically, right? So when you throw it on, it works very fast, but it's also very fast to use. So we're gonna look at here on vocals first, because this is where I'm always using it, is on vocals here. So I'm gonna hit play. You can see how much reduction we're doing, and I'll A-B it a little bit as well.
running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a memory. Yeah, yeah. Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of...
Hear the fullness and the energy lift we get from this compressor? That's something you're not going to get from a stock compressor. You'll get the evenness and you'll get that volume consistency from a stock compressor, but you're not going to get that edge, you're not going to get that character, and you're not going to get that fullness that comes from this, okay? Listen one more time. So our settings here, we're at 0.55 milliseconds on the attack. So medium slower for this unit, but still very, very fast. We're still under a millisecond, and then 50 millisecond release. So fastest release. We went on pull these peaks down on the vocal coming in, and then we want to let go as fast as possible. We don't want to hold on. Input and output, we're pushing in till we're doing about 7 to 10 dB reduction, so it's a lot of reduction on the vocal, but that's where we're getting that character and that energy lift. Listen one more time, with and without.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a member.
You can hear our volume is pretty consistent in and out of the compressor, but we still have a huge energy lift in the vocal by adding this compressor. It gives the vocal that little bit of edge and that little bit of grit that helps it feel like the vocalist is pushing harder while they're singing. It gives some extra emotion to the vocalist and it enhances the performance. That's the nice thing about an analog style compressor like this, is it's going to enhance performance. Not just do the tactical side, not just even out our vocal, not just compress it, it's going to enhance the overall performance. And I like to use this compressor in a variety of places. That's why it's one of my favorite compressors. I wouldn't put it above my mix bus compressor because I love my mix bus compressor. Even though that's probably usually the only place I use it inside the mix, I would still put that number one. But here I use this 1176 on piano to even out peaks on piano. I use it on acoustic guitar here. I use it in a variety of places throughout the mix because of how versatile it is and because of that energy lift it imparts on the track. So that's number two. Number one is the mix bus compressor, and something I would recommend is an SSL style bus compressor. Number two is an 1176 compressor emulation. Very, very versatile compressor, and it adds a ton of energy and character to your mix. Now, number three is a tape machine. This is the only plugin that's not from PreSonus or not from Studio One, but it does integrate very, very well with PreSonus software and with Studio One. But you can get any kind of variety of a tape machine. Waves makes very, very affordable style tape machines, so you can get them at a good price and get this type of energy and this type of vibe. Slate Digital's tape machine is iconic. This is the one I've started using a while back, and I really fell in love with what it does for my mix. I don't know about the color you get from like the Slate Digital ones. I did use like the Kramer tape and the Abbey Road one from Waves a while back, but this is what I've settled into using, and it does wonders for my mix. I do use this in more than just the mix bus as well, so you can use it on bass guitar, you can use it on kick drum, you can even use it on vocals if you need some extra vibe. But all this is doing here is it's giving us some of that tape vibe, so it's enhancing the depth of our mix while also helping some of the frequencies in the bottom end bloom and feel more natural and less flat and digital. That's the main idea with the tape machine, is it's rolling off those digital edges. So take a listen here to the mix with and without the tape machine. So I'm going to start without it, and then I'm going to kick it in. Listen to how our mix changes.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a memory. Yeah, yeah. Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time.
You can hear it rolls off those digital edges. It gives our mix this element of kind of softness or smoothness, especially in the bottom end on the kick drum. It helps the kick drum and the bass guitar sit really nicely together. It helps them bloom, and it gives you that character of pushing into like an analog tape machine that just blends everything together really, really well. I love this soft tube tape machine, and it's pretty affordable. I think it was 100, maybe 150 when I bought it. So it's on par with like the Slate Digital tape machine in terms of price. I run it on the B setting here, and I pretty much run it at default settings. So I just bumped the amount up 0.1. So it starts at 5. I bumped it up to 5.1, switch to the B setting, and I run it on the 30 IPS tape speed, so the highest inches per second here. The B setting is what gives me more bottom end here. So type A is pretty balanced sounding. B is more bottom end, and I believe C is more top end. Sometimes I get A and C reversed, but B is where you're getting that bottom end from, that warmth, which is really, really nice. So listen one more time here. Tape machine in and out on the mix here.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a memory. Yeah, yeah. Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her.
So these are the 3 plugins that I would recommend going out and getting first as you move on from stock plugins. So stock plugins and education first, then move into third-party plugins. And I would recommend getting a good mix bus compressor first. So SSL style bus compressor is always great. 1176 emulation because it's so versatile, and then a good tape machine to add that analog vibe and depth to your mixes. I hope that was helpful for you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and you can download it below to start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.